Shalom. I am Dr. Jeffrey Schein, the Executive Director of the Mordecai Kaplan Center for Jewish Peoplehood. I am pleased to be here today with my friend and colleague, Dr. Henry Morris, whom I will introduce more fully in a moment. I'm excited that Henry will help us initiate a new series we are calling Kaplanian Voices. For those of us who teach the ideas and writings of Mordecai Kaplan, like our executive vice presidents and academic advisors, Doctors Eric Kaplan, Mel Sculpt, hundreds of other rabbis, scholars, and lay leaders of adult learning, there is a near universal admiration for Kaplan's book, The Meaning of God in Modern Jewish Religion. In that book, Kaplan explores the core meaning of the major holidays in our Jewish cycle from a Kaplanian perspective. The closeness of where we live Jewishly, the holiday and life cycles, and how we think Jewishly is perhaps the key to the success of that volume. So this year, and Shana Tova to our viewers, 5783, we are reconstructing that tradition. Let's locate ourselves in time, 2022. This taping occurs during the Aseret Yemei Shuvah, the 10 days of repentance between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. We are all doing our individual and collective Heshbon HaNefesh, soul inventory. Traditionally, the ethical categories that guide our Heshbon HaNefesh have been known as Bein Adam L'Makom and Bein Adam L'Chavaro, between a person and God and between a person and fellow human beings. These are well-known categories. In an article published in Reconstructing Judaism's Evolve, that is attached to this video, I argue that to be fully alive Jewishly in the 21st century, we need to think of 5 ethical categories rather than 2. The evolving nature of our ethical life, it should come as no surprise to those who understand Judaism as a dynamic, ever-changing, evolving religious civilization, requires change and the development of new categories. These 3 new categories are Bein Adam L'Atzmo, between a person and herself, based on the teachings of mindfulness and Musar. Bein Adam L'Tevel U'Maleah, between a person and the natural world, of which they are a part, based on the exigent need to respond for the environment and respond to the climate crisis. I'm guessing there are no shaking heads here or dissonance, because these categories, while not part of an explicit vocabulary, I think make intuitive sense. This last one I will share, especially the Hebrew version of it, will be perhaps unfamiliar, but I hope by the end of our recording, interesting to you. That last category is Bein Adam L'Kelim Asher B'Shim Musho, between a person and their uses of technology. To explore that, you'll be able to read about that through the link, the full article. But to explore it now, I'm really delighted to turn to my colleague, Dr. Henry Morris. Dr. Morris is a graduate of the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College. He has a PhD, an earned PhD in philosophy, worked for many years in business and technology, and now teaches classes in Brandeis Adult Learning Institutes about Judaism, ethics, and technology. Welcome, Henry. I am guessing that Mordecai Kaplan, who had so much to say about so many issues affecting modern Jewish life and in our time, contemporary life, might have something to say about these issues as an introduction. And I think you have a Kaplanian nugget to share with us and then expand upon. So please.
Thanks, Jeffrey. I do. Thanks for inviting me, and happy to be here on this webinar. Well, Kaplan indeed did talk in 1939, think of the year, on human amalgams and intercommunication. And here's what he wrote. He said he was interested in the formation of great human amalgams through the rapid means of intercommunication. The only thing is, the amalgams he saw at that time were the ones on the rise in 1939: nationalism, fascism, communism. And Kaplan called them Frankensteins or golems that crushed individuality and were leading to evil on an unprecedented scale. But Kaplan was able to see beyond the amalgams of his time and thought that in the future there was the potential for the creation of ethical human amalgams that had what he called the spark of the divine within them. And in his envisioning of the use of mass communication to drive ethical communities, he was channeling the thinking of John Dewey, as he often did, who saw the potential of mass communication to bridge gaps between divisions in society to create what Dewey called the great community. So both Kaplan and Dewey saw the potential to apply the new communication technologies of their day to drive ethical communities rather than communities bent on accelerating the spread of evil and human suffering.
Well, thank you, Henry. And today, that was yesterday, Henry.
Right.
And today is today, and undoubtedly a prelude to some future we don't yet know. Could you share with us what you believe has changed most fundamentally since 1939 when Kaplan wrote this passage?
Yeah, well, think of intercommunication technologies today, you think of social media. I can't imagine that Kaplan and Dewey could have conceived of a technology that could deliver information or misinformation to micro segments of the population with great rapidity and precision. Now, remember, the technologies of Kaplan's day, like the radio, were mass media technologies, and they reached large numbers of people, but they all heard the same message. Micro-targeting of today adjusts messages to reach different people. Think of the use of intelligent technologies by Cambridge Analytica in the 2016 election campaign. They leveraged personal information that individuals, like myself, thought were private, to deliver messages that were customized to influence an individual. The question is, will the application of these intelligent technologies serve to bring diverse people together in advancing democratic ideals like Dewey's great community or Kaplan's ethical amalgam? Or will the application of intelligent targeting technologies serve to increase division, multiplying segments of people, reducing the shared experiences that could bring people together? The question for Dewey and Kaplan, as it is for us today, is whether we have the ability and the will to monitor and control the use of the communication technologies of our day that can reach and influence people in a positive way.
Henry, I know you have great respect for a scholar scientist named Norbert Wiener. Could you say something about how he fits into this picture?
Sure. Norbert Wiener, a famous MIT mathematician, one of the fathers of artificial intelligence, was ahead of his time, as Kaplan and Dewey probably would think were ahead of theirs. In fact, he was advancing ideas in the 1940s, not long after Kaplan and Dewey were making their comments about what he calls cybernetics, systems that could process feedback and learn, seeking to develop game-playing strategies to achieve goals. And these were strategies of these systems that the creators of the system could never have envisioned. In Wiener's last book, he published the year of his death, 1964. It was called God and Golem, Inc. He called intelligent learning technologies golems. What he was worried about was the situation in which the creation of a technology, and in fact, the creators of the technology, had not built in mechanisms that would enable the control of these same technologies. And he was advocating that if you are creating a technology, like one of these feedback systems, you have the responsibility to build in control capabilities. And that those who are applying the technology have the responsibility to use these controls to ensure their ethical application. And Jeffrey, I think this brings us back to the maxim that you were mentioning earlier, the ethical responsibility between a person and his or her use of tools and technology. The way I would see this hash out is, how can we become more effective in ensuring that these tools and technologies are used in ethical rather than unethical ways? How can we work towards the applications of these tools to nurture ethical communities rather than the increase of fragmentation and division in our society.
Henry, I know that you are the co-author of a book that delves deeply into the notion of augmented intelligence. That might be helpful for us to know something about as we imagine a future.
Right. Augmented intelligence is a little different than speaking about artificial intelligence. It's interesting to note the Stanford Center for Human-Centered Artificial Intelligence advocates that when we apply artificial intelligence, we should seek to augment human capabilities rather than replace humans. And in fact, this is the goal of augmented intelligence, the collaboration of people and machines to achieve results that benefit rather than harm people. Think of helping a disabled person by augmenting their native capabilities with technology, perhaps a cognitive or mobility assist that were powered by these same technologies. Or think of applying intelligent technologies in an augmented fashion to enable the formation of human communities committed to goals that improve the human condition. Now, thinking about what this might mean, consider the following example. Recently, I read an op-ed piece by William MacAskill in the New York Times. William MacAskill is a philosopher at Oxford University. And in this piece, he was advocating a commitment to what he called long-termism. MacAskill urges us to choose the actions in the present that will tend to optimize the preserving of civilization for future generations. For example, act so as to remediate climate change. That's in line with this perspective. The major benefits will be realized by future generations, like my grandchildren, more so than benefiting my generation. Here is where intelligent communication technologies could come into play. You could use intelligent targeting technologies to identify potential alliances among existing communities that would happen to share a commitment to the realization of this goal, say like long-termism. Now, this is a pluralistic approach. It's different than Dewey's idea of a singular great community. But building alliances for coordinated action across communities is a good way to reduce fragmentation. We identify the potential of a shared commitment shared across separate communities. This is an ethical application of today's communication technologies and intelligent targeting. This type of action is in keeping with the values that Kaplan and Dewey spoke of, but adapted to take advantage of the communication technologies that we have available today.
Well, thank you, Henry, for those many insights. I think I will end this recording by coming full circle. We started with the individual and the presentness of being between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. We moved to a grander social perspective and communications technologies. I want to return to the personal and indicate to people who are watching this that if you do follow the fifth ethical domain article to the very end, there are some links that might be very helpful to you as an individual thinking about your relationships to technology. If that happens, I'm very grateful. In any event, I'm grateful to Henry for this dialogue, to the Kaplan Center for sponsoring it, and I wish everyone a Gamar Chatima Tova, a good feeling for the year 5783. So thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey.